Year, everyone! 2018 is coming, and we're saying goodbye to 2017. Now, this is the first year I officially doing movie reviews, and for those of you who have been subscribing and who have been watching my videos, I would just say a big thank you. Now, I've seen around 60 movies this year. Haven't reviewed all of them, unfortunately. I really do, but due to the travel plans and my busy schedule, I cannot do every single one of them. But, however, I can still make a top 10 list of all the movies I've seen. Now, this is my list, so some of you might not agree with what I have, but movie is subjective after all. This is a very good year for movies. There were a lot of movies, and there were some very polarizing, which could be bad, but in my opinion, I really like it because that shows we're not all robots watching the movie, and we can have a discussion on what we like and what we not like. So before I get into top 10, here are some honorable mentions I have. It Comes at Night. This is a very good horror film, one of the most underrated horror films. Critics love it. Audiences, however, did not really enjoy it because of its strange storytelling. There's a lot of deep thematic things going on in this movie. But for me, it's one of the creepiest films I've seen this year. Mother by Darren Aronofsky. This is, once again, an extremely polarizing movie. Some people say it's a masterpiece. Some people say it's one of the worst films they've ever seen. But for me, I think it's a masterpiece just because of the beautiful visual and the strong themes. And once again, Jennifer Lawrence's excellent performance and the destructive nature of motherhood. Alien Covenant. Now, this is another film that a lot of people didn't like, including myself. When the first time I see it, I didn't like it, but the more time I see it, the more I understand what Ridley Scott was trying to do, and I really appreciated this movie. This is a gorgeous looking movie, and there is a lot of fundamental question about man versus God. Shape of Water. Another great film by Guillermo del Toro. It barely missed the mark because it's not his best work, in my opinion. But it looks amazing, and it's one of the best cinematic poetry I've seen in years. Lady Bird. This is one of the biggest surprise because before I come to see the movie, I'm not seeing a single trailer, not seeing a single poster, but it surprised the hell out of me. It's one of the best coming-of-age movie I've ever seen in a big screen. So definitely should check it out. Okay, so these are some honorable mentions, and now I'm getting to the top 10. And my number 10 is... When I first heard James Franco was involved in this movie, I became very skeptical because I wasn't sure about him. I didn't like some of his previous works, but this film surprised the heck out of me. Not only it shows the funny side of the making of The Room, because Tommy Wiseau had a lot of interesting story involved in making of this movie, it also gives a very human side of him. It shows how much hardship he has to go through, and in some way it's very endearing and inspirational for anyone who wants to pursue a career in films. It just shows, like, no matter what the outcome is, as long as you're giving your best, you can never be the loser. If you haven't seen Wind River, go watch it. This movie is amazing. This is a heartbreaking tale about loneliness, about these groups of Aboriginal people who were excluded by society, and how these people has to survive where no help can reach them. This is one of the most tense and gripping movie I've seen all this year. Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen give amazing performance. I think they deserve to be nominated, and their performance and the entire movie crushed me. This is a movie not to be missed. Now, to be very honest, when I first saw Guardian, I was thinking this movie was okay. And then when I started thinking about it, and then with more time viewing, I began to appreciate what this movie does. Sure, there are a lot of humors doesn't fit, and sometimes the plot can go off tangent. But there is a theme about family and friendship that I felt so endearing. At the end, I was crying. It has one of the most powerful endings of all the MCU movies. And it has some of the most amazing visuals, some of the cleverest dialogue I've heard out of all the MCU movies. And this is possibly one of the best comic book movie I've seen. Ridley Scott made 2 really great movies this year, which is something really surprising, even though I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott. All the money in the world could be a disaster with the recasting in the last minute. But with the amazing performance of Christopher Plummer and the mastery of Ridley Scott, they made one of the most intense thriller of the year, and possibly one of the smartest film about family and wealth. Okay, this might be a little bit controversial because I know many of you guys hated this movie, but for me, this is one of the best Star Wars movie I've seen in ages. When I was a kid, I wasn't that impressed with Star Wars until I saw Empire Strikes Back. This brought me back that feeling again. Not only visually this is great, but there is a lot of very deep thematic. And the more I think about this movie, the more the flow of the story makes sense to me. And to the point, it felt like a poetry. And the Force is very balanced in this movie. And I felt this is one of the deepest Star Wars movie ever. Not to mention the amazing performance all around, from Mark Hamill to Daisy Ridley to Adam Driver and even Carrie Fisher. They say comic book movie either has to be dark and dreary like DC or fun and numbness like Marvel. Well, Logan proved them wrong. Logan is a dark, gritty movie. This is almost an anti-superhero film. James Mangold has directed one of his best work in ages, and he mixed it up with the old classic Western films and some of the film noir elements and came up with something brand new on its own. It has an amazing performance by Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and not to be ignored, Daphne Keane, who played X-23. And this film has a really rich theme in there. It's about love and fate. Sometimes you can never run away from your fate, but neither can you run away from love. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is one of the longest film titles I've seen this year, but also one of the best film I've seen in ages. This is a dark comedy that tells a heartbreaking tale about a mother trying to find the killer for her daughter's murder, and along with it comes a sheriff and a young police officer who seemingly is the bad cop that everyone thinks. But there's a lot going on in his story, and the fate of these 3 people are mixed up, tangled together in a strange yet heartwarming way. This film has a lot of gratuitousness and a lot of cruelty, but under this cruelty are the genuine friendship between them. It just shows that sometimes anger is not always a disaster. It can be a cure. And this movie taught me a lot. When you ask me what's the top 10 movie gonna be in 2017, earlier this year, Florida Project would never come to my mind. But this is one of the most realistic movie that is not documentary I've seen. And it is heart-wrenching and somewhat heartwarming at the same time. It has some of the best performances I've seen from a child actor ever. Brooklyn Prince is a very talented young actress, and I think she got a really bright career ahead of her. Not to mention William Dafoe as well. This film makes you intrigued in the whole story, and you follow through them because how realistic the story is. And towards the end, you know the ending is gonna happen, but you really don't want it to happen. Why? Because the characters were so good, and you root for them. And that's why I think Florida Project is on my top 10. In an interview, Matt Reeves, the director of War for the Planet of the Apes, said, "This is the film where religions are born." I would totally agree. This is a very powerful and entrancing movie. Some people may not like it because there's not actually a war, but I say this is a psychological war and the impact of overall war given to us. Here, I felt like war has a very deeper meaning, and that's why this is my favorite war movie, because it doesn't show you the actual conflict. It shows you what impact that conflict has on the soul and on a person's mind. This is a very powerful movie with some great visuals, almost perfect CGI, and not to mention the amazing performance by Andy Serkis. Do not let the CGI fool you. He has to make facial expression himself and perform his own vocals. To a point that halfway throughout the film, I forgot it was Andy Serkis. It's just Caesar. That's how good he is. I heard Matt Reeves is going to direct a new Batman film, and I think it's perfect for it if they give him full creative control. I see no reason why the Batman film cannot be great again. Was there any doubt? Blade Runner 2049 is the perfect movie for me. From visual to storytelling to the acting, I could not pinpoint a single flaw. This is the reason why cinema are born. Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford gave one of the best performances they have ever given in their career, and so are the supporting cast, which there are so many of them I did not have time to name them. Denis Villeneuve has shown once again what kind of a master he is. From Sicario, Prisoners, to Arrival, he never failed, not even once. And also, not to forget, was the incredible score from Hans Zimmer. I keep on listening to Seesaw every time I go to work, every time I go to school. It's tremendously powerful. This film, also, not to be ignored, has a really deep theme of more human than human. It explored that, probably much more deeper than the original film. If the original film is like an experimental, groundbreaking sci-fi, this is a sci-fi epic. It expanded the world of Blade Runner, and if there's ever gonna be a sequel, please make there be. Guys, thank you so much for watching my review this year. Your support meant the world to me. I'm gonna have a top 10 worst movie of the year coming soon, and I just want to say this is a wonderful year for movie this year. I had a blast. Thank you so much, and as always, if you think I'm good, you're pretty good too.